The night was as black as pitch, and a heavy fog hung in the air as I embarked on a solitary drive through the remote countryside. My only companions were the rhythmic hum of the engine and the occasional hoot of an owl in the distance. The road ahead stretched on endlessly, disappearing into the inky abyss. As I continued down the desolate highway, my headlights suddenly flickered and then died, plunging me into total darkness. Panic surged through me as I wrestled with the steering wheel, trying to keep the car on the road. I cursed my bad luck, realizing I had forgotten to replace the aging headlights. Feeling vulnerable and alone in the impenetrable darkness, I decided to pull over to the side of the road and assess the situation. I groped around the car for a flashlight, and after a few tense moments, found one buried in the glove compartment. I flicked it on, casting a feeble beam of light that barely pierced the thick fog. As I stepped out of the car, the fog seemed to wrap around me like a cold, clammy blanket, muffling all sound. The world had become eerily silent, and I could feel an unseen presence lurking just beyond the edge of my vision. My heart pounded in my chest as I strained to see through the fog. Then, from somewhere in the distance, I heard a faint, haunting melody, a mournful tune that seemed to be carried on the wind. It sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't help but follow the sound, my flashlight trembling in my hand as I moved deeper into the fog. The melody led me to a dilapidated, abandoned farmhouse that loomed out of the mist like a specter from the past. Its windows were shattered, and the paint had long since peeled away. Despite its decrepit appearance, the haunting melody seemed to be emanating from within its crumbling walls. I hesitated at the threshold, my heart pounding, and then summoned the courage to enter. The interior was as desolate as the exterior, filled with cobwebs and shadows. But the haunting melody grew louder, drawing me further into the decaying building. As I ventured deeper into the house, the air grew colder, and I could see my breath in the dim light of the flashlight. The melody now seemed to be echoing all around me, as if the very walls themselves were singing. I had a sense that I was not alone, that something ancient and malevolent was watching my every move. Then, in a room bathed in an eerie blue light, I saw her, a spectral figure, ethereal and beautiful, playing an old piano that had long since fallen into disrepair. Her fingers danced across the keys, producing the haunting melody that had lured me here. Her eyes met mine, and they held a deep sadness that chilled me to the bone. She beckoned to me with a ghostly hand, and I knew I had a choice to make, to stay and unravel the mystery of this ghostly presence, or flee in terror. I took a step closer, drawn inexplicably to this otherworldly apparition. As I reached out to touch her, the world around me seemed to blur and fade away, and I was left with the haunting melody echoing in my ears, a haunting reminder of the night I ventured into the unknown and encountered something beyond the realm of the living. The eerie figure that had crossed my path on that desolate road seemed to have left an indelible mark on my psyche. As I continued my drive, my thoughts were consumed by questions and doubts. Who or what was that shadowy presence? Why had the voice on the radio warned me to turn back? My rational mind fought to dismiss these unsettling experiences as mere coincidences, but my instincts told me otherwise. The road ahead grew even more treacherous, winding deeper into the heart of the dense forest. The darkness was suffocating, and the silence that enveloped me was deafening. I tried to shake off the unease that had settled like a heavy shroud, but every rustling leaf and distant creak of a tree branch sent shivers down my spine. As I drove further into the wilderness, the road seemed to narrow, becoming little more than a rugged path. It was as if the very earth itself was resisting my progress. The car's headlights flickered again, and this time they dimmed significantly, casting only a feeble glow. Panic welled up inside me as I realized how utterly isolated I was. Then, a bone-chilling sound pierced the silence, a mournful, otherworldly howl that echoed through the trees. It was a sound unlike anything I had ever heard, a haunting cry that seemed to come from the very depths of the forest. I had heard tales of strange creatures lurking in these woods, creatures that defied explanation and reason. The voice on the radio returned, its words now laced with desperation. "Leave this place while you still can," it pleaded, its tone more human than before. But I couldn't turn back now. I was determined to reach my destination, though I had no idea what awaited me there. Suddenly, my car's engine sputtered and died, leaving me stranded in the inky blackness. I desperately tried to restart it, but the engine remained stubbornly silent. I was trapped, alone in the heart of the forest, with an unshakable feeling that I was being watched by unseen eyes. Out of the darkness, the figure re-emerged, now closer than ever. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding towards me with an eerie, spectral quality. My heart raced as I fumbled for my phone, trying to call for help, but there was no signal. I was completely cut off from the outside world. As the figure drew nearer, I could make out its features. A pale, gaunt face with empty, hollow eyes that seemed to hold all the secrets of the universe. Its outstretched hand reached towards me, and I could feel a chilling coldness radiating from it. In that moment, I had a choice to make: stay in the car and face whatever malevolent force had descended upon me, or abandon the vehicle and flee into the night. The voice on the radio continued to implore me to leave, and with a surge of terror, I made my decision. I unbuckled my seatbelt and stumbled out of the car, leaving it behind as I ran blindly into the abyss of the forest, hoping against hope that I would find safety in the unknown. To this day, I cannot explain what transpired on that night drive, whether it was a malevolent force of the supernatural or merely a series of bizarre coincidences. But the memory of that night continues to haunt me, a reminder that there are mysteries in this world that defy logic and reason, lurking in the shadows, waiting to be discovered by those brave or foolish enough to venture into the darkness. Amidst a torrential downpour that seemed to be nature's encore to a gloomy day, I found myself alone at an Eerie train station. This wasn't a bustling hub of activity, but rather a decaying relic from a bygone era. The dim, flickering light overhead cast ominous shadows on the cracked and weather-worn walls. The station's eerie ambience was heightened by the echoing drip of water from a leaky ceiling, creating an eerie rhythm in sync with my racing heart. As the rain drummed relentlessly on the station's roof, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that I was far from alone. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder, which felt like a warning from the heavens themselves. My coat clung to me, offering little protection from the chill that ran down my spine. Just as I contemplated seeking refuge elsewhere, I heard a faint, ghostly whisper. It seemed to emanate from the very walls, barely audible above the tempest outside. I strained to decipher the words, but they were maddeningly indecipherable, carried away by the howling wind. It was as if the very station itself held secrets it was hesitant to reveal. Suddenly, the flickering light overhead sputtered and extinguished, plunging the station into an inky abyss. Panic welled up as I fumbled for my phone, using its weak glow to pierce the darkness. And in that feeble light, I saw it, a figure cloaked in tattered rags, lurking at the far end of the platform. My heart hammered in my chest, and I took a cautious step backward, the echoes of my footsteps the only sounds in the stillness. The figure moved towards me, its unnatural, jerky movements defying explanation. It wasn't until it drew closer that I saw its face, a grotesque, pale visage twisted by malevolence, with hollow eyes that seemed to gleam with sinister intent. I was paralyzed by fear, unable to look away as the figure drew nearer, its whispering growing louder and more incomprehensible. Desperation clawed at my mind, searching for an escape, but the rain outside had transformed into a deluge, and the doors to safety were firmly sealed. Just when it felt like the figure would reach out and claim me, the lights flickered back to life, and the specter vanished as if it had never existed. The station returned to its eerie stillness, but my heart still raced with terror as the train